football sports this weekend. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about this. So there's this segment on Indisputable called "What in the Redneck Hell," and we're pretty sure that redneck is like a bad thing, right?
Yeah, you're not supposed to say it. But can I give like an okay? Like, I mean, I'm from Connecticut, but
no. You're from Connecticut.
I get sunburned. Do you remember when I got sunburned and it stayed for like 4 months?
It became a deep itch, like a weird itch.
It was the Satan itch. Like it was a legitimate medical mystery.
It stopped being funny for me to make fun of. That's how real it was.
I feared that was permanent, and it was driving me mad. Like my leg injury. Those are like the two things that I'm like, oh God, am I broken for all time?
You were broken for a long time with that leg injury. We were in Amsterdam, and it's like a walking town. And it was so sad because we got in hop on, hop off buses, and you couldn't hop on, hop off anything.
It was like fall on, stumble out. And it affected me so deeply, that tennis-based ankle injury, that the next time I had a chance to play tennis, I did. And once again, played too vigorously and immediately re-injured the leg, but not as badly that time. Anyway, so what's happening with the Rednecks?
So it's more of an internal thing that he was. I think the production team was like, I think we can't say this, so let's figure this.
Yeah, I don't know, man. People get away with everything. Why can't? Well, although Dr. Rashad Ritchie he's a special class of like White House acknowledged, like he might have more of a lens on him for subversions like that, you know?
Yeah. So here's some other pitches.
The weirdest thing, Brett, they're talking about the redneck thing on Twitch chat right now. They might even do a poll.
They're psychic. I figure every Friday they get these psychic things.
They do just on Fridays, actually.
Red and blue neck. So here are my pitches.
What's that?
What in the trailer park hell?
I
Trailer
don't
Park
like
Tuesdays.
that as much because that's more of a classist thing. The redneck thing is a racist thing, and I'm more okay with that.
Got it. So how about this? Instead of right back at you, right back Appalachia.
Okay, that's not bad.
What about
play with color? I know that's a thing.
Instead of white, that's funny. Instead of white trash, we call it white treasure. Some people might call this white trash. What if you had a white trash, white treasure segment where you point out an instance of white trash and then you acknowledge a white person who's past the minimum bar? Trashy. Okay, how about so Wong but so white?
Wait,
so Wong, so wrong, so white. Instead of so wrong, so right.
So white.
Okay, that didn't work. It's fine.
No.
And how about this? Just call it White People Town. And let's see what's going on in White People Town.
Oh, geez.
And then that's my favorite. This one we can't do, but it's a play on Instagram.
What's that?
The word Instagram, and we just call it apostrophe graham crackers.
I think you're gonna get the same people who don't like redneck and I don't like
White Manistan is a good one from Edwin.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Damage Report, your daily look at, oh God, everything that's out there. But on Fridays, we take it a bit easy. We take out some political garbage, and I'm quite excited to cover my political garbage today. But I won't be doing it alone. As always, I'm joined by Brett Erlich. Brett, how's it going?
Hey, I'm really happy to be here in the neighborhood with you, John. It felt like I was house sitting for 2 consecutive weeks.
Yeah, it was too. Yeah.
It just, yes, I did inspect everything around the Damage Report. I tried on some of the Damage Report clothes. I slept in the Damage Report bed. It was just really creepy for the most part, me hanging out here. But having great company like Ray Vana and Jordan Ewell was
fun.
Made it at least bearable theoretically for the audience.
I got a lot of messages from the audience saying that it was at least theoretically bearable. But no, and I was listening to a good bit, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Did you see? No, Rayvana posted a comment that her mom sent her of our interaction, which was they took. I forget what it was. They took something stinky and made it gas or something. Like it was so weird.
It was kind of a compliment. It wasn't even a neg. It wasn't as positive as a neg generally is, but no, good, I appreciate
but not
you
great,
and everyone else.
I believe was in there. Good, but not great.
Some potential. Anyway, I am back, and obviously a picture of health once again, everybody. I was feeling better before the show, and now my throat is just hot garbage again. So suitable for a Friday show. But regardless, if we don't cover the news, we don't get paid. So we're gonna talk for the next 90 minutes or so about a number of different topics. Infrastructure, something we haven't talked about in the show for years. No, we're gonna be talking more about that, some of the most recent developments. Then we've got good news. We went out there, we found some, so just in a little bit, we're gonna get to some good news. And then there's a bunch of other stuff. And eventually we throw out some garbage. If you haven't already voted, go to the community tab on our YouTube channel and you can vote for the community garbage person of the day. That would be great. And please hit the like button. If you haven't already, you can share the stream as well. And if you send us messages, we'll respond as we go. But with that said, Brett, are you ready to cover some news?
I am ready, John. Thank you so much for asking this time. You have my full enthusiastic consent.
Good, but not great. Thank you.
It was goat piss, by the way. We took goat piss and made it gas, I believe.
That's arguably better. Okay, we're not the good news yet, everybody. So just hold on to your butts, but we are gonna start talking about some news. All last night, deep into the night, some political nerds with nothing better to do were waiting to see, are they gonna have a vote on the infrastructure bill? Pelosi had spent most of the day saying it's gonna happen. Josh Gottheimer is like, it's definitely gonna happen. And in the end, it did not happen. House Democrats delayed a planned vote yesterday on a major infrastructure package, heading home for the night after intra-party fighting hamstrung their ability to pass the legislation. That particular cover of it, like, who's to say who's responsible for this? Maybe there was a deal, maybe there wasn't a deal. But anyway, leaving the Capitol just after midnight, Ms. Pelosi told reporters, quote, "We're not trillions of dollars apart," although some would have you believe that is very much what is happening. And she vowed there will be a vote today. Well, coincidentally, today is today. And so maybe there will be a vote. Jen Psaki in the White House said a great deal of progress has been made this week and we are closer to an agreement than ever, but we are not there yet. And so we will need some additional time to finish the work. Starting tomorrow morning, first thing. Now, as I said in sort of the lead into this, there's a lot of like, is it gonna happen? Oh God, maybe there is. But the thing is, like the side that basically caused this to not happen, they didn't vote against it because they didn't have to. No vote was ever called. But the Congressional Progressive Caucus said and has been saying we're not gonna do it. Now that does not mean they were definitely going to stick to their guns. Okay, politicians often don't. They often lie or don't have the strength to actually do it. And we on the left aren't used to people who represent us actually following through with what they say they're going to do. But in this case, they did. And their leader in the House, Pramila Jayapal, said nobody should be surprised that we are where we are because we've been telling you that for 3.5 months. And they actually meant it, at least so far, and we've moved past a much more substantive hurdle than a lot of the rhetorical stuff over the past few months. So, Brett, what's your take on what happened yesterday and going into today?
Some of the more hilarious and amazing things that happened at the end of the day last night were like, there were like Susan Rice and White House aides were having these late night negotiations with Schumer to try to push Manchin in the right direction and maybe wrangle some folks. That is really the first time. Yesterday was the first time in this like very obvious timeline that I saw at least some pressure being pushed on it. But Bernie Sanders was outside Schumer's office saying this is stupid. You can't have these late night negotiations. We're definitely killing this thing. So it got into the wee hours of the night as people that represent progressive interests, which, by the way, it bears repeating, these interests aren't just niche progressive like faves. These are faves by most of the country. Like across the nation, this has like a plus 40 favorability rating. And more than that, it's the Biden agenda. And so a lot of this stuff has been on the wall for the walls of DC's Capitol building for months and months. But what's so strange to me is watching these, like I have now like an antenna that I plug into my TV. So I get like ABC, NBC, CBS. And the national news coverage of this is pretending all of this is new developments that happened last night. Instead of what you're saying, where we've been saying this for months and months. And why are they shocked? The only person who's changed really over all this time is Manchin, and his numbers aren't going up. They're actually going down, down, down. As you've been saying for months and months, and it's crazy that a Newsweek tweet went off on this yesterday. It went viral. The Newsweek was like, by the way, 4 months ago, or a few months ago, Manchin wanted a $4 trillion spending package.
And everyone was like,
I was like, John and TYT have been putting this on graphics for weeks and weeks and weeks now. It's so weird that you guys are finally coming around to the reality that Manchin is being super sus about this. He might be the imposter.
Yeah, that's true. And we're gonna have a little bit more from him. I just want to quickly acknowledge what was done was they did sort of boot the whole debt ceiling thing back to early December. So the government will be funded. It was going to shut down at midnight. And I think at least part of the coverage last. Sorry,
those are two separate things. So originally the Senate, the debt ceiling is still here. Like that's still an October
solve
thing.
The problem. They just did
that's like an October 18th thing. They continued the funding of the government, so it won't shut down through December.
Yes, thank you. In any event, Manchin, who reporters are continuing to try to get some information out of, and we're gonna get a couple different sources of information on him, told reporters yesterday that his top line had been 1.5 trillion, but he sidestepped questions about whether the figure was set in stone. And then he said this, you gotta love quotes like this: "We're in good faith negotiations. We'll continue in good faith negotiations." Whatever they are not in good faith. Just such a trigger word, good faith at this point. But anyway, what we do know, because the thing about Manchin and Sinema, one of the differences is Manchin has been more specific about what he wants and what he doesn't want. He says, for instance, we're not taking the Hyde Amendment off. Hyde's going to be on. It has to be. That's dead on arrival if it's gone. And if you're not familiar with this, if you're new or outside of American politics, under the Hyde Amendment, Medicaid and other federal programs are prohibited from covering abortion expenses. Government spending bills have included the stipulation since 1976. And even President Biden backed the Hyde Amendment for literally decades, but under pressure from progressives during the last presidential campaign, he did reverse that, and his own personal budget did not include Hyde language. But Manchin literally calls himself pro-life, and so he expects that to still be in there. But Bernie's not a real Democrat.
It's like, the Hyde Amendment is one of the most toxic constitutional problems that people don't think is a toxic constitutional problem. It's basically saying like, I don't think that my tax money that is voted on in Congress essentially should go to stuff I don't want it to go to. Now, yes, you can look at like, it was passed by Congress, so it would supersede those kinds of things, and there are religious undertones because religious people oppose abortion. But like something that, as of now, anyways, is enshrined in federal judicial history and precedent and decided law, is that like it's not killing a viable life ahead of time. Like, could I get the Hyde Amendment for something that I, as someone who believes in Greek mythology as my religion, why not arbitrarily say that? Like, I think you shouldn't be mean to like, I don't know, hawks because hawks are my god. Like, I don't like, there's these weird religious, like weasel ways that things get in there, but it's like abortion is legal up until the point where Roe versus Wade says it's not. And that's like a viability issue. But the Hyde Amendment, it's weird, it's ancient, it's placatey to a certain group of people. But worse than that, all it does is counter like civil and human rights, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's who Manchin is. Thankfully, many Democrats have changed on that to some extent, but others have not. And we do have more Manchin. But before we get to the Manchin, though, I do want to let you know about one little thing. This is sort of breaking news just as we're going live. According to Jonathan Allen, Senator Kyrsten Sinema left DC earlier today. 2 sources tell NBC News. She's just gone. So one source supposedly, I haven't seen this confirmed, says that she has a doctor's appointment. Okay, sort of important business going on, and I'm fairly certain there are doctors in DC. But in any event, she doesn't care. Like she did this, was it a month ago, 2 months ago? Just like left while these important negotiations were going on. She doesn't care about any of this. Like, and we will be talking more about Kyrsten Sinema later on the show. But yeah, she just doesn't. She feels no obligation whatsoever to actually solve problems for constituents. That is just not a consideration. It's not a consideration for far too many politicians, but for her, it ain't on the top 100 list of her priorities. So
no, well, she's gone. She had a pre-existing schedule because the new semester of her wine internship that she gets paid $1,100 for is starting back up again. And so she's got to crush grapes and
yeah,
you know,
as well as hopes. That's good.
There you go.
She's multitasking. Anyway, let's talk now about Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin has a big problem with this massive reconciliation bill. It's fiscal insanity, he says. But as many people have pointed out, he has been supportive of a lot of government spending in the past. In fact, late yesterday, the Week's Ryan Cooper published a column pointing out that Manchin has voted for every single one of the military budgets of the last decade, 2011 through 2020, $9.1 trillion in total. And he would occasionally say like, there's some wasteful spending or we gotta audit this or whatever. But you'll notice that he didn't drag out negotiations for 6 months over that. He didn't add a bunch of pay-fors to the military budget, like to make sure that we defray some of those costs. He may have had considerations, but they didn't affect the actual passage of the bill, and not in any way like they are when it comes to this domestic spending. So this is something a lot of people have been pointing out. The military spending cannot be questioned, is fairly automatic, and will always go up no matter what the state of America or the world is. Whether we're engaged in wars or not, it will always be going up. But like spending money on like the climate or something like, fiscal insanity. And we're gonna have some of his constituents bringing that argument to him. But what do you think about this, Brett?
I mean, I just don't think of him as an honest actor. And you don't have to look about what he has voted for and what he hasn't voted for. His own position on this has been wishy-washy. AOC had a great moment where she pointed out, like, I just don't know which Manchin I'm negotiating with. Is it June Manchin or is it October Manchin? I don't know, because in June he signed on to a framework for this. And then he says, well, I have this signed piece of something from Schumer's office saying that no, that I do have a goesies backsies clause. No one can find that. It's Joe Manchin being Joe Manchin. I just need someone to exert some kind of influence over this guy so that he does what he always does and crawls back in his hole, picks up his vote button and votes yes like he should. Hopefully this is just him making some stupid noise in the meantime, like he always does. I'd rather he just go back to West Virginia, pull out a rifle and appease his conservative voters by blowing another hole in a yellow pages or some stupid bill. Like go and signal, D-bag, like don't ruin paid family leave, universal pre-K, the first opportunity to pass these kinds of initiatives that your voters want at a clip of 80%, you moron. And it's incumbent on the entire media to just point that out. Ask the question, like what's happening?
Yeah, no, you're
so
totally
weird,
right.
man.
And it's possible that he will end up doing that. We will see. I don't know. He definitely even if he ends up getting there, that does not mean that he was not planning for or totally willing to just pass the bipartisan deal. That seems pretty clear with that Schumer thing. But you're totally right about the different mansions, not just in terms of like which dollar count he's okay with, but the fact that he's forgotten that he pushed for $4 trillion in spending, or the fact that he now pretends that, what are you talking about that we were gonna pass both at the same time? No one's ever said that. Like that is a Trumpian level lie.
Dude. That was the vote. But that was the vote that got 20. That was the vote that made this week the week, dude.
No, he says now nobody ever said that. That was never the deal. He's acknowledged that. You can get his quotes, but again, it's so obvious and excessive a lie that like for you to ever talk about good faith negotiations again is a complete sham. But that said, whether we are talking about June Manchin or October Manchin, this is a dude with mansions as well as yachts. And to talk to him, you're gonna have to go to one of the two. And so some of his constituents did go to his yacht. We're gonna show you some of them trying to get through to him and his attempts to convince them that he actually supports them. But I want to set it up though, because this is a guy who frequently spends his weekends off on a boat somewhere having fun. But here is what he talks about what it is when regular people expect the government to actually provide something for them. Let's go to this video.
Testing means that are we targeting the people that need it or getting it, or the people getting it that maybe could do without? And they're in pretty good shape. So I said means testing. I said work requirements. Those are all very, very important in these things. And that way you target children. So you have the beginning of life, our children. Pre-K, yes. Then you have the end where our senior citizens want to live in the dignity and respect of their own home. We can do that with some assistance. And again, some can pay a little bit, and some can't pay any. That's means testing. It goes an awful long way that way. I'm just not, so you know. I cannot accept our economy or basically our society moving towards an entitlement mentality that you're entitled, okay? I'm more of a rewarding, because I can help those who really need help if those who can help themselves do so.
You said the mercy. He smiles as he backs away like, yeah, I don't want people to get entitled. I make so much money doing literally nothing. Now I'm gonna go be on my yacht for a while. Everybody talk amongst yourself about me, but don't get entitled, all you poor people who desperately need help. And he represents a state with a lot of poverty, a state that, as Brett already pointed out, massively supports this bill. And there is seemingly no connection between what the people there want and what happens to him, or even their views of him. There seems like no, it's happened in Arizona. I haven't yet seen it from West Virginia, but that's very frustrating. So Brett, what do you think about this? Are you concerned about people becoming entitled?
Well, it's the quote entitlement programs are the most popular programs in America. People like it. And you know why? A lot of them work. And you know what? If he has a problem with certain aspects of entitlement programs and he wants to make them cheaper and more economical, what he can do is get behind the part of this bill that allows us to negotiate drug prices for Medicare. Because that's your tax dollars right now going towards something that is overpriced. There's your waste. Like focus on that stuff. Right now on tyt.com, there's like, as of, I want to say like 4 minutes ago, there's a new report up about how much Manchin himself has made off of coal. And in the last 10 years, it is, spoiler alert, $5 million in the last 10 years, $522,000 a year. Go read that full article. It tells you exactly that. And the reason I point that out is in terms of entitlement programs. I saw this tweet earlier, retweeted the video that you just played, retweeted with just a post saying Manchin got his first job from his dad.
Yep.
So he got a handout and he's used it. And you know what? He's using that to keep his whole family flush with cash. And there's been bailouts that his family, through essentially an entitlement program, Daily Poster's got an article about it. There's a whole flush of like government money that went to bailing out his entitled ass family, because America is so much more eager to listen to the moneyed interests that basically that show up with their handout first, and the only thing they give in exchange is not, I'm a human being, please respect me. That's what most people in America want. But instead they put a bunch of money in Manchin's coffers and then get a ton of cash in return. And usually you have to look at those donations. Yeah, and usually you have to look at that level of corruption. But with Manchin, like, the money goes into his own pocket. It goes into his own family's pocket.
Yep. You do best to change the subject, Brett. How dare you ask about those sorts of questions, those sorts of things. Anyway, really fast, I do want to show some of these protests. We've talked about it a couple times. They've continued. Here they are trying to get through to Joe Manchin.
We just passed a Pentagon budget of $788 billion. No, and that over 10 years is $6 trillion, right? $6 trillion. And we're talking about
how much do you think that we spend every year on non-discretionary, basically non-defense?
not
just
enough.
as much.
Clearly not enough.
Okay, so there's a lot in the video. You can find them online. The woman goes on to point out that like the Republicans are definitely going to take back the Senate and the House, possibly no matter what, but definitely if the Democrats don't actually do what they said they're going to do, what they need to do. And he immediately starts talking about how the filibuster is necessary for the future. She wasn't even talking about the filibuster, but I love that there. His defense is, oh, we spend a lot on defense. Well, you know how much we spend on everything other than defense? Just as much. Why would that be okay? That's not even actually how it works out. But if that was the breakdown, you get your bombs and your tanks, and then you get literally every other responsibility that the federal government has. That's an even split for you. But I don't doubt that is kind of how he thinks about it. And that's why politicians like him need to be gotten out of there. Like all of the needs and the suffering of the constituents that would come to him are like maybe weighed as much as, yeah, but like we gotta always spend more on defense. Like, yeah, your insurance and your schools and your job and your home and all of that, the environment, everything. Yeah, but we really need to spend more on defense. It's really frustrating.
The image of Boat Manchin out there, Joe Manchin on his boat mansion, looking down literally from his yacht called Almost Heaven.
Yep.
At people who are like, I'm literally in a dinghy. I'm in a kayak, and not like a kayak, not one of those
leaning off the balcony.
Like I'm on a floating chunk of plastic. And it's almost like Manchin was in there going like, all right, guys, calm down. Shh. Turn down the music. You know, this is the first scene in Arrested Development. This is the pilot episode.
No, he before he came out, he said they've got dinghies. that is exact. I'm so glad that you pointed that out. Joe Manchin. And he's the one out of the two that like maybe will finally go along after needlessly cutting out a bunch of stuff that would have really helped people. That'll be the effect he has. Like, shouldn't it be like the senators from like the really wealthy states should be doing that? He represents a lot of like dirt poor people, and his only effect is one of two things: either stopping everything or making it as weak and as slimmed down as possible in ways that stop it from helping the people he is actually there to represent. Incredibly frustrating. Anyway, we do have to go to our first break, but when we come back, we've got good news for you. I swear to God, I'll have it for you after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on. Over on YouTube, we've got Alexis Merrill Dragon Queen, who's been a tier 1 member for 7 months. Thank you. Says John and Brett sing happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you, Alexis Dragon Queen. Happy birthday to you, birthday weekend shenanigans. Thank you, I appreciate that. Ernie Ev says, if the progressives get this reconciliation bill passed, how long before Manchin and Sinema start taking credit for it? I'm fine with that, honestly. It'll be more frustrating that the media will probably give them credit for it. But as long as it gets done. Chaplain Fred said, John and Brett, I am a small business owner and I can definitely need for this bill to pass so I can pay my employees. I'm running out of funds. Yeah. Kenny L. Shaw says there's always money in the banana stand, Brett.
Yeah,
it's true. JS there says the party needs to make her resign like they did Al Franken. Corruption does not make you resign. Only the scandal. We need some sort of scandal like that. I don't know. Forbesilla says Sinema needs Melania's jacket. Yeah. She screams it even louder than the jacket ever did. There was a poll. Can Dr. Ritchie say redneck? Yes, had 95% of the votes. So Brett, I don't know if that reassures you, but you'll probably be
We're
fine.
still gonna change it. You know, when your internal like ding 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 goes off, you're just like, I gotta change it.
I know.
I don't think we can say graham crackers though. I'm pretty sure, like I'm afraid to send that one as a pitch. But if you do see graham crackers, I was the weirdo who came up with it. But I don't think graham, like Instagram crackers.
Here comes the Tony, hit 12 months on Twitch, says 12 whole months, shower me with praise, John. You're the best, thank you. But no, honestly, thank you for being here. Equanimity 23 hit 13 months. Ellinger hit 16 months, says let's go Dragon Squad, thank you. We're going, we've been going for 16 months. Shouldn't we stop at some point? I think we should really stop. Okay, I'm gonna get to more messages in a minute, but before we do that, I have a weird sort of special request. And this is kind of a heavy lift that I'm asking for you, but there must be some of you out there that are willing to do this. So you might or might not know Edwin, who's one of the amazing members of our team. Well, in addition to everything that he does for our team, he is also a great photographer. He does amazing work in a lot of different ways. He's got a photograph called Flying In and Going Out that's on American Photography Open's shortlist, along with 49 other photos. And what they're doing is they're allowing people to go and vote on their favorite photos. He's currently number 15 out of 50. He says it would be difficult to crack the top 10, but I'm sure that he'd really like it. So for the next more than 2 weeks, there's a website, Pro Photo Daily on Facebook. So if you go to Facebook, Pro Photo Daily, if you search for it, it should come up and you can find his photo. If any of you would be willing to go and vote for, I think that would be awesome for 2 reasons. One, great photograph amongst many of his. He's done a lot of great work and he would love it, I'm sure. So if you have Facebook, consider doing that. Pro Photo Daily, his name is Edwin. The photograph is Flying In and Going Out and it's available on the American Photography Open shortlist. So that's just a request from me. Now that said, Late Bloomer, thank you for your super chat. Sailor Digurin says, I say we throw Manchin and Sinema out the airlock already. Hey, let's keep it clean. No violent stuff, no sexual stuff, those are the rules. But let's politically throw them out of the party. Let's do that. Late Bloomer says, it's sad we talk about political BS as moot considering the focus should be on the damage already done to our environment. I hope the remaining species on this planet can survive the harm we've done. Yeah, I agree. We were talking about that on Meanwhile In yesterday. In any event, lots more news coming. We'll be back after this. Okay, so TYT Sports, I think, posted a YouTube comment that's in my thing saying, what's weird is John fails to disclose to his audience he owns a broken down PT Cruiser called Highway to Hell. Tell them the truth, John. And like 500 people are gonna come away from this thinking that's true. It is not true, it is not broken down. It's just not in great shape. Anyway, Brett, are you ready? I totally
You've been hiding this cruiser.
I do not. Okay, so I got a lot of things over the course of the show that I need to let you know about. So we're gonna get through a couple of them today. Some exciting content coming up. Later today on the Power Panel, I'm gonna be leading the first hour with Cenk Uygur and Senator Nina Turner. Power Hour herself is gonna be on there. The second hour is gonna be J.R. Jackson, Cenk, and Adrian Lawrence. So that's gonna be awesome as well. Also, another reminder, Dr. Rashad Ritchie is not only leading Indisputable, which will be coming up after our show, and Jackson White will be joining him as co-host. Rick Green will be on to do a debate, but he's also up for Best TV Anchor in Atlanta Magazine's Best of Atlanta 2021, recognizing his work on Indisputable. They're apparently one of the last to recognize his work on Indisputable because everybody else already loves it. But anyway, you can help him win Best TV Anchor by going to tyt.com/Rashad and writing in his name, Rashad Ritchie. You can vote once per day, every day until October 11th. So 2 great causes you can help Edwin's photography contest and Dr. Ritchie for that award. So other stuff to come, but Brett, how would you like some good news to close out the week?
I love it. Oh, John. Oh my gosh.
You appreciate good news.
I didn't know there would be good news. And so now whereas before I was not super jazzed, now the jazziness now I feel like jazz.
You say that, it's there. Your mouth says jazz and your fingers say it louder.
They can't.
Anyway, okay. With that, you know what? Let's talk about some good news. Most of the news is pretty dark, so we decided to find some good news and a couple different categories. So first of all, good news for the city of Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, and those of us who want the even limited reform to police departments that it is possible to get in 2021. So this is the suburb of Minneapolis, where not long ago, black motorist Dante Wright was killed by an officer in a traffic stop. And so what Brooklyn Center has done is officers are now instructed to release people who are cited for low-level crimes and can only take them into custody if required by law, which would include cases of felonies or if someone poses a threat to themselves, the public, or to property. The policy also requires officers to attempt to de-escalate situations. The fact that that's a reform, I'm gonna not focus too much on because this is a good news block, but now they have to de-escalate, so that's good news. Marquita Butler is a member of the city council, says many people of color, particularly black men, carry trauma from an experience or many when being pulled over by the police. This policy is important and needed to ensure we don't have any more deaths as a result of minor traffic infractions. So at least for this area, it is going to stop some of the needless escalations that can lead to violence, including deadly violence against the people that police have stopped. So that's good news.
It is good news. Exactly, like I had the same reaction, which is like, okay, guys, now we're gonna be decent. Now we're gonna do that thing, whereas like, you know how before we would escalate situations and it was chill? Before people would just be like eating cereal and we like, put down that utensil. Some utensils are knives. Then we just start shooting.
Yes.
And like the thing where it's funny because everybody in the criminal justice system knows that like, for whatever reason, like overcrowded prisons and detention facilities are an enormous problem. I like seeing codes like this. Yeah, I like seeing codes like this that are like, yes, only if we need to lock the person up will we lock the person up. And yes, we should probably try not to escalate situations. Great, we're here. I feel like we spent a lot of time. Take yes when you get a yes, walk away. So good job, thank you. Walking away.
Take the W, okay? But that's not the only good news we've got. We've also got good news for California. We've got good news for your former spot, Manhattan Beach, and good news for those of you who, similar to our first story, are desperate for some sort of racial justice, even if only sort of fixing a needless, long-standing, decades-long racial injustice. And that is that in California, Governor Gavin Newsom has authorized the return of property known as Bruce's Beach to the descendants of a black couple that had been run out of Manhattan Beach almost a century ago. There's a Senate Bill 796 was signed just yesterday, says the land in the city of Manhattan Beach, which was wrongfully taken from Willa and Charles Bruce, shall be returned to their living descendants. And it is in the public interest of the state of California, the county of Los Angeles, the city of Manhattan Beach, and the people of the state of California to do so. This is a story that people have been talking about very recently, although it's a story that goes back, like we said, about a century. Way back to in 1912, when Willa Bruce purchased this land for $1,225, the first of two lots along the Strand between 26th and 27th Streets. Many refer to the area as Bruce's Beach, and a few more black families drawn to this new community bought and built their own cottages by the sea. Which, if you know anything about, I was gonna say Manhattan Beach or California, but basically America in 1912 faced the sort of thing that you would expect. Years of threats, harassment from white neighbors. The Ku Klux Klan set fire to a mattress under the main deck and torched a home nearby. When that failed to cause the black landowners to leave, city officials in 1924 condemned the neighborhood and seized more than 24 properties through eminent domain, saying we urgently need a public park. Well, finally, after decades and decades and decades and decades, they've finally given the land back.
I want to interject. We need a public park. Bruce's Beach is near the beach. Like, it goes down to the beach. There is a lifeguard station at the bottom of Bruce's Beach because next to it is the biggest public park of all, the frickin' ocean. The beach, a big, beautiful beach that goes for miles north, for miles south. That is just Brett, a lie.
So you know more about this area and perhaps about the story than me. So are you implying that wasn't the reason?
There's two giant parks nearby. No, it wasn't the reason at all. They wanted to get rid of black people.
That was the reason, yes.
What's hilarious about this section, up until COVID, there were like these groups, these like super rich white dudes who would sit and talk politics right next to that, like on the corner. So next to this giant injustice was like the biggest group of conservative rich D-bags that would get together like at 7 o'clock every morning. And it was like a to-do. So just that juxtaposition of injustice and like guys who have already crossed the finish line and are like in the promised land, like complaining about stuff they shouldn't be complaining about. Since then, the guy who lived there has moved down the street and has like a bunch of recall Newsom signs all over the front of his house. So he lost his Bruce's Beach and he just lost his recall election. I love it so much. But well,
someday perhaps we'll have good news for him. We can't deliver good news to everybody every day. And so far we've had a couple pieces of good news, but we have special good news for one individual. Good news for Mike Lindell, Mike Pillow himself. His ads are once again allowed to be played on Fox News, which is a boon for him. He had a falling out with Fox back in July, claiming the network would not air a commercial promoting his 3-day cyber symposium about the 2020 election being stolen. Man, that symposium was something. At the time, he had said, shame on Fox News, shame on them. When I was told they wouldn't run the ad, I said to cut off advertising on Fox immediately and indefinitely. But apparently they have come to some sort of understanding, allowing his amazing merchandise to once again be put on air. We want to give an example of it. On Thursday afternoon, a MyPillow ad highlighting the best prices ever aired on Fox News, with Lindell showcasing a $99 bundle offer that includes his book, which he wrote, and 5 pillows featuring biblical images. And here are the pillows. Don't you just want to have those all over your living room? Isn't that great?
Here's what's hilarious about this. So 2 weeks ago, he was hawking these pillows with Jim Baker. And the price tag for that was $100, like flat for $100 donation. You get just the 5 pillows. So now he's adding his own. It's not just the 5. Yeah, he's adding his book into it. So to convince you, in effect, to take his book off his hands, he's knocking the price off because it's not $100, it's $99. He's caught, and it's like 98.98 or something like that. He's done knocking $1.02 off. Take my book, please take my book.
By the way, Orpheus pointed out in the Twitch chat, says these look like Lion King knockoffs. That is exactly what I thought the first time I saw them. They 100% look like Lion King knockoffs.
Right, the line, yeah, it's like the version that they release at the same time, but like on VHS first. Like at the time, oh my! So I remember being in a Tower Records when a grandma was like, "Oh, King Kong's already out," and it's like it says like King Korg, and she just didn't read it close enough, and it was like it's so good. But the video where the actual ad itself is fantastic because he's like, cancel culture almost canceled me into oblivion, and so you could uncancel me with these pillows. So good.
I am not. Like, I don't care how much you care about cancel culture. You don't choose pillows based on it. That doesn't make any sense.
But the fact that the ad is back on Fox News means that they've accepted Mike Pillow back into the fold. And it's hilarious that the only way they'll do that is if he clings to the message that they've been spreading, which is freaking cancel culture. So no, it's still not okay to do like the whatever, but you haven't been canceled if you're back on Fox News. 100%. And also your narrative on you being canceled is that Fox News canceled you because you were spreading the truth about the election.
Yep.
So which is,
and by the way, they just canceled Rudy Giuliani. So are you fine with that, Mike Pillow? You're okay with that cancellation? So anyway, yeah, I guess he's gonna be back. And look, he's back, which means they've smoothed things over. He's okay with the cancel culture. They've apparently convinced him, I guess, not to talk about how the election was stolen too specifically. The dude just needs to get with it. Stop with the election stuff. Start with the anti-vax stuff. That is the grift of choice this year. It's so big, it's beyond just the right now. Why won't he focus on that? But anyway, Mike, this is good news for Mike Pillow. This is good news for Fox News. Presumably bad news for Newsmax and OAN, I guess. But not everybody gets to be in our good news segment every week. Anyway, any other good news, Brett?
No.
You got nothing? Wonderful. Okay, well, we've got actually kind of good news for one of the worst people in America, the governor of a state. That'll be coming up after this break, but we do have to go for a few. We're gonna read some of your comments and we'll be back with more news after this.
I got a pillow, John. A pillow.
Bad news for John. I apologize. I know that it's not popular to even marginally like SNL, but I do enjoy SNL. And Beck Bennett isn't going to be coming back. I don't know how familiar you are with Beck Bennett, but he did a great Mike Lindell impersonation. So now we're not going to have that, unfortunately. Anyway,
he's good. That group, that's he and Mooney were in the same like college sketch group. And
and they entered at the same time on SNL.
Yeah, and there was another guy that was in it that didn't make it. He was a writer for a minute. He's really funny too. But I remember a friend of our intern on a show knew them when that all broke, and she was like so stoked for it. And then it's like, oh my god, they've been on there for a long time. And I think he's really talented, and that group is really really talented. You can just tell.
And I'm sure he'll do other stuff. I really liked him on there, and they don't really have anyone to fill that role, so I don't know what's going to happen, but Cecily Strong is still gonna be on. That was my fear. So thankfully that did not happen. Anyway, Anthony Phillips, thank you for being a member on YouTube for 6 months at tier 1. John Snow, welcome to tier 2 membership, getting access to our top 10 lists, which we do every week, available to tier 2 and tier 3 members. D Rocky has been a tier 2 member for 9 months, as 9 months with TDR, and excited for another 9. Thank you. God only knows what the state of the country will be in 9. Late Bloomer says, just saying. I think that was a reference to a previous comment, which I don't remember now, but thank you for both. Penguin says, I noticed on the pre-show when you're controlling your breathing and trying hard not to cough, you also don't yawn. That's true, actually. I've been a congested mess, but normally in the pre-shows I yawn a lot. I haven't recently. Let's see, Pitchforks Dragon says, the Rednecks were a progressive movement that wore red bandanas to show support for unionizing for better hours and wages. Okay.
Yeah, that's what they're known for. That's
not
what
all that
I love stuff like that, though, man. I love stuff like that.
I appreciate the context.
And like, I just watched Tombstone, so like the term cowboys, and like that was the name of a gang too. Like I'm sure it's also.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
I don't know if it was real, but Powers Booth or whatever the hell the guy's name is, so good, so good.
Nice. Let's see, Katya the Frankenfurter says, hey John and Brett, please make me laugh today. I so need this right now, thanks. So maybe up your game, Brett, come on. Be funny now, be funny right now. But we will try. Roselle B says, I don't want to pay for a rich kid to go to college, but I'll pay for their trust fund by cutting their parents' taxes, rich people entitlements. I don't want to pay for like billionaires' kids to go to my alma mater of UConn. And thankfully that's never going to happen. The means testing stuff is a massive con. Don't means test, means tax. If you can pay $1 additional as a poor person, they will suck that dollar out of you. But if you've got billions, like, well, we don't want to like hurt them too bad. It's actually not crazy how that works out. They're in charge and we've allowed it, but I digress. Ray Allen N says, speaking of SNL, Brett's Mike Pillow sounds more Jeopardy Sean Connery to me. That's funny.
Watch your ass, Trebek.
Oh, those were classics, man. Flonk Sauce Dragon, thank you for your #1 fan. Appreciate that. Vanta Dragon, thank you for your hippos. And over on Twitch, Classic Tech subscribed for 15 months. Damn. Flash Gordon for 10 says, damn, 10 months already. It really does fly by. And Dave Gurr for 11 months. Thank you to all of you. We have reached this time when there are so many double digits now. Who will be the first to hit 100 months? Stay tuned eventually, and we'll be right back.
Rawr. Squad.
Ching. Somebody, presumably it's gonna happen. I mean, I'm about to hit my 10-year anniversary. You've been involved with TYT for even longer. Well, we hit like another 10 years and bada bing, bada boom. Somebody's gonna hit that 100.
I had my 9-year anniversary yesterday or 2 days ago. I found out on Slack. No, I've known Mankiewicz for 12 years, 13 years. But not like friends. I've known Alonzo for 13 years, definitely. But sure. that was the in.
Oh, I've known Ben for 10 years now and literally have never been friends with him. So I totally get what you're saying there.
I forget who he mentioned this, if it was you or me, but he's like, you are one of the people I enjoy the most who I will never have over to my house. Like the most Ben Mankiewicz statement.
It is totally.
At least I know
I've house sat for Ben Mankiewicz actually way back in the day. We've been to 2 movies together, but not recently at all. So I guess I didn't make a strong impression. The last movie we saw together was Mad Max Fury Road. Yeah. And we also saw Star Wars together. I think I'm too dorky for him. I don't think he'll see movies with me anymore. But anyway, you know what you can watch later on today? A whole bunch of stuff. First of all, today's Friday. So in addition to the power panel, which we already talked about, you've got a Game Busters coming up. Brett, what can they expect on Game Busters?
As we're officially in October, you can join myself, Brooke Marks, Jordan Ewell, and Adiana Vega as we play Dead by Daylight. So it's a spoopy.
You're playing Dead by Daylight?
Halloween. Do you want to jump in? I'm sure you're allowed.
Friday nights are movie nights with a wife. It's very difficult for me to do, and we have a lot of fun. And we eat pizza and everything that we make. But Dead by Daylight does sound fun. I'd like to watch that.
I just don't know why. Like, you live with your wife. Ugh. If I have to spend an extra minute in a room with my wife, I lose it, John.
No, I get that. I get that. I've met your wife. I get where you're coming from. But anyway. Okay, I only say that because I know she's in Twitch watching. Anyway, yeah, so we have Game Busters, we've got Indisputable, we got the power panel. Today's a packed day, so get ready for that. Anyway, I'm looking at the Twitch chat and I'm scared now. Okay, one of my producers said in the doc, I remember when we thought we wouldn't have enough stories. I'm so naive. You think we're gonna have trouble on a Friday? Anyway, with that said though, we do technically have more news. So why don't we jump directly into this?
Notice the media, no matter how many times you've answered the question about are you considering a run for the presidency in 2024, and you give the same answer, that they still keep asking you. What's your answer to those people that ask again and again?
Yeah, I'm not considering anything beyond doing my job. We've got a lot of stuff going on in Florida. I'm going to be running for re-election next year. And we're also working on a lot of things in the state beyond just the governor's race. We got school board races, Sean. I want to make sure people are not supporting critical race theory, making sure that parents have the ability to send their kid to school the way they want to. So there's a lot of huge issues. That is way down the road. It's not anything that I'm planning for.
Well, okay, so we'll get to the unsubstance of his response, but I want to start with Sean Hannity. Did you notice what he did there? He did the thing like, people always ask you the question and you give them the same answer. I don't get why they do that. So what's your answer to that question?
Like he just was asking for a friend.
That's all he did. Like
I'm asking for a friend.
Oh, those people, but I
don't care. But a friend of mine wants to know. Anyways, yeah. I'm busy later anyway, so I can't even know. But
I put you down for yes or no. But anyway, his response there appears to have been, I'm not even thinking about that. I'm too laser focused on all of the issues that we've focus grouped that would make me a successful presidential candidate. I'm just focusing on those things, not thinking about the presidency at all as I try to convince you to support me for president.
We got a lot of issues that were fake. First of all, he's a My Buddy doll. If people don't know this, there was a doll in the 80s called the My Buddy, which was like a doll similarly that they were like, can we, through focus grouping, find the perfect way to sell dolls to boys because we just want to open that market? And it was like this plush My Buddy doll that was only perfect for grabbing by the hand and whacking against surfaces very hard because it was resilient. It was like you just felt nice to just be like my Chucky. Buddy, and it looked like Chucky, and that's Ron DeSantis. And so our My Buddy doll is like, yeah, so I'm really not focused on anything other than my job, which entails a lot of stuff. Most of it's fictional nonsense. So I'm gonna spend a lot of time, like any politician really, like focusing on problems that aren't problems, like critical race theory. So that's gonna be my thing.
Yep. He literally said critical, like I'm a governor, okay? I need to govern. I need to worry about critical race theory. Like, oh God, your state's in the grip of a pandemic that you've failed multiple times. He keeps getting redos. Like it's like a video game. He keeps getting to reload. Okay, here's a new wave. Now you still remember everything from the last one. You take all of those memories into this new one, so you're gonna do better, right? Okay, let's see. And he doesn't, over and over again, and tens of thousands of Floridians die. But he is on this thing that they're not teaching in schools there. That's good.
And it's yeah, exactly, not an issue. And he thought it would be like a mask mandate thing, but he's lost too many court battles in that respect. So that's not a winner for him. He knows that critical race theory is like an easy win, especially in any primary that he might get. But I do want to focus on another aspect of Sean Hannity's framing of that question, which Hannity knows that he can't alienate his little like triggerable D-bag Trump on the other side. So he has to also ask that question that way. That's not like, if it was Trump, he'd be like, we all want to know if you're going to run because we need you to run. We want you to run. The America's better if you're involved in this conversation.
Yes.
But he doesn't want to trigger Trump's animus by asking for DeSantis to run.
I don't care. I don't. Other people want to know. I don't want to say that I care. He wants DeSantis to like him if DeSantis ends up being the guy, and if it's still Trump, he needs that plausible deniability. You're totally right, and I totally missed that. Now, how is this strategy working from DeSantis? We will have that in one moment, but I want to build up the tension and frustrate my producers. So before we do that, Brett, you mentioned My Buddy. Do you remember? So after they made the My Buddy to try to sell dolls to boys, do you remember the female version of it that they made?
Kid sister, kid sister. She's the female version of My Buddy. It's like
which means she's a doll
of a copy.
So I remember those ads. That was the Cars for Kids of the mid to late 80s, I guess.
Anyway, there's people in the chat going like, my buddy and me.
Well, that's where I saw the reference to Kid Sister, but I did remember. Anyway, so how is all this working? I mean, Ron DeSantis substantively, he's been faced with actual crises and he has failed time and again, enthusiastically. But he does say critical race theory. And so if you don't have health insurance and your kids are never gonna go to college and you're underwater on your mortgage or whatever, you don't care about that. You care about him saying critical race theory, which he did. So you'll be shocked to find out. Recent polling for 2024, while Trump still had the support of 26.2% of Republican voters, DeSantis was close behind at 25.2. Trump is 1 percentage point ahead. Now, this is released by the John Bolton super PAC, so just bear that in mind. They're not fans of Trump necessarily, but that doesn't mean that there's anything baked into the question that would manipulate the results. Support for Trump has apparently plummeted since a survey in just July, a couple of months ago. He had 46%. DeSantis doubled from 13. So in that time, DeSantis has doubled, gaining 13 points. Trump has lost 20 points at the same time. There's a bunch of other considerations. Nikki Haley's got like 7%. Chris Christie's got 6 or whatever, something like that. But this is, look, I might question the John Bolton part of this, Brett, but I have seen other polls implying that support for Trump very much has been declining throughout this year. And I don't know if it's like they say it might be Afghanistan, like his decision to pull us out of there or whatever. But it might also just be he's out of the public spotlight. He doesn't have Twitter. People aren't thinking about him, but they are seeing DeSantis and others. What do you think?
Yeah, so Trump has a couple cool stories. One is back when Trump was mentioning that you should probably go get my vaccine, he got booed. And then he has since like reevaluated his position.
You need your freedoms. You gotta have your freedoms.
Yeah, he taught DeSantis all these moves, and DeSantis, who is much likely smarter, but less talented. So you've got like the more disciplined, more of a workhorse. You know, he doesn't have the talent, but he does have the discipline to execute on these things. He some people say talent is something that you're born with, and other people say talent is just knowing what to steal. And so Ron DeSantis's talent is knowing what to steal, and Trump's talent is figuring out kinds of messaging that works on the group. And DeSantis is just stealing that from him. But another story is one that we're not doing on the main show tonight, but it's the story of this Afghanistan veteran who is mad at Biden, and then Trump world swooped in and raised a bunch of money for him. And he's like, don't worry, I hate you too. And MAGA world is still all about this guy. So that's a story on Vice you can check out, but it's amazing.
Awesome. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on this. It really does look like there could end up being a battle between these two, but DeSantis is also a weenie, so maybe not. In any event, that is going to be about all the time that we have for our first hour. So if you've been watching on one of our linear apps, thank you very much for that. But if you're on Twitch or if you're on YouTube, we do still have a lot of news to get through, including the bad news part of our show. Bad news for Alex Jones. So enjoy your Friday Schadenfreude. We might have to make that a thing. And we've also got some garbage to throw away. So the garbage people of the week, we'll be breaking that down as well as other news after this. Welcome back, everyone, to what remains of the Friday show. Appreciate you all being here with me and with Brett. Remember, as always, this is just the beginning of a big old Friday show on the TWT Network. We've got Indisputable, we've got the Power Panel, there's Game Busters, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you're very much going to enjoy. But with that said, Brett, are you ready to get back into the news?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Is that your impersonation?
I don't know.
Well, we're gonna talk about him. Let's do it. Bad news for Alex Jones. A judge has ruled that he is liable for damages done to the families of the children who were killed in that 2012, I should say, Newtown massacre. That he spent any number of different hours on his show, implying were not true, that the families were lying, causing them to be hounded and have to move out of their homes multiple times. It was an absolutely unimaginable horror heaped on top of something that was already unimaginably horrific. But Judge Maya Guerra Gamble earlier this week issued her ruling for default judgments against Jones in 2 different cases, meaning that he will be liable for damages, and a jury will now be convened to determine how much he'll owe the plaintiffs. So we don't know exactly where this will end up. We do know that in some of the prior cases, the dollar figures have been pretty high, and so it's really going to come down to each family and how many families there are. But we want to remind you of some of what he subjected these people to. So Media Matters has done a compilation of him talking about Sandy Hook, about the shooting. It is over 7 minutes long. They did a small sample of the larger thing. We're only showing you a tiny bit of that, but here's some of what he said.
Sandy Hook, it's got inside job written all over it. Sandy Hook is a synthetic, completely fake, with actors, in my view, manufactured. I couldn't believe it at first. People just instinctively know that there's a lot of fraud going on. But it took me about a year with Sandy Hook to come to grips with the fact that the whole thing was fake. I mean, even I couldn't believe it. I knew they jumped on it, used the crisis, hyped it up, but then I did deep research, and my gosh, it just pretty much didn't happen.
Yeah, and when you see that stuff, like most people watching our show, I would imagine if you're watching this, you don't watch Alex Jones. You might have the idea that, yeah, he's crazy, but it is difficult to actually imagine telling your audience over and over that not only did the government fake this in some way, it was a false flag, but that it hadn't actually happened, that the kids didn't die. The parents are lying. They're not actually parents. The kids are actors. And then they got their audience worked up to go and hound the families that had lost their kids for years. And so it has been a long-standing, many years now, legal attempts to get some sort of justice, to stop him from doing it, to get money for it. It took until 2019 for him to acknowledge in a sworn deposition that the shooting was actually real. And you could probably guess about what percentage of his audience got that message after getting 7 years of his lies. But anyway, Brett, I don't know, does this seem proportionate that he's gonna pay some money after all this, after getting rich off of this sort of content?
Well, I like the way that it came about is that he just wasn't, they were like, sorry, you didn't disclose information to us that we asked you to. So I
for years, yes, that he was supposed to.
So like, I'm sorry, and that's it. And that central theme of I really don't care, do you, permeates all of this. Like a couple things. One, like this idea that he gets to get away with certain things that, like, just because he's crazy, and when I say crazy, air quotes crazy, I don't think he's actually crazy. I think he's kind of crazy in that when it's convenient for him, he operates under the guise that this is just entertainment. But the way that he gets people to pay attention to him is to convince them that this is not at all for entertainment. This is all accurate. It's news. This is the real news.
I'm revealing the truth.
Is fake. That's frustrating. And then with the government conspiracy stuff, it's like, which is it, guys? Is the government so thoroughly incompetent that everything they do is a disaster and we shouldn't give them any money or resources or anything like that? Or are they so wildly competent that everything we think we know is a lie told to us by the government? Like, which is it?
Simultaneously, yep. It's amazing, but this is what you do. You get your people hopped up on an ever increasingly purely crazy narrative of the world. You convince them that you are the only person that will tell them the truth about what's actually going on. And by listening to you and accepting the truth you reveal to them, they become better than everyone else around them. And that's what they do. It can be with stuff like this. It can be, remember the Seth Rich stuff for years, the family begging people to stop lying about the murder of their family member. This is what happens. It's disgusting, but at least he's going to have to pay some money. That will not make the families whole. The deaths alone, let alone years of trauma as a result, can't be erased just with some money. But hopefully it will help at least a little bit, and maybe it will cause him to not do this to future people. So we'll see.
And these are laws, dude. These are laws. You can't just decide because I'm an entertainer and it's convenient for me that I don't have to tell the truth about this stuff. Like there are laws that exist that you're going to pretend don't exist, and I'm sure everyone's like, oh, he just gets to say it. This is a freedom of speech thing. It's like, but no, these are real laws that like I'm sure if someone that, by the way, he reportedly takes advantage of to sue folks all the time when they talk trash about him.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's jump to our last story before we take out the trash. It's going to be a doozy. In Anchorage, police say 4 people were arrested. There was this assembly meeting just a couple of nights ago over a proposed mask ordinance, and it caused an uproar. People had to be arrested. One man was armed, actually. And this ordinance basically says that you would have to wear masks in public places and large outdoor gatherings. The sort of ordinance we've had in many parts of the country for a year and a half. It would last until December 31st at this point. And they've had mandates like this in Anchorage before. It's just reasserting the same sort of mandate. And why? Well, because Alaska is facing the country's highest rates of COVID transmission. And states like Florida and Alabama and stuff like that have started to do better. So now Alaska is doing the worst. I want to show you a picture of how they're doing. It is crazy. The rate of case increase and deaths increase. Now, because like not a lot of people live in Alaska, the actual absolute number of deaths is not significantly high compared to other states on a daily basis, but it is higher than it has ever been in Alaska, and they want to take it seriously. But unfortunately, many Americans are not capable of doing that. And so they did what they do. They go to these meetings. There was a guy handing out yellow stars of David adorned with the phrase, "Do not comply." This is something that we've seen multiple times. People who don't want to put a bit of cloth on their face, implying that they are being persecuted like the millions killed by the Nazis. But in this case, the mayor actually spoke out in support of them. So here is the mayor of Anchorage.
I see, and just as we've referenced the Star David quite a bit here tonight, but there was a formal message that came out within Jewish culture about that, and the message was never again.
Yes,
that's an ethos, and that's what that star really means. Is we will not forget. This will never happen again, and I think us borrowing that from them is actually a credit to them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
So apparently, this was a council member who was Jewish who asked him about this, and he assured that Jewish council member, no. This is actually like being respectful in doing this. It's up to him, I think, Brett. What do you think?
When I was on the cruise and I got cornrows in my hair, and then when he got dreadlocks, and when I say the N-word, it's really a credit to those who have reclaimed all of those, as well as those who invented those cultural tropes. Honestly. Dude, when they said never again, according to this guy's quote, are you sure they were just talking about you using the Star of David to equate these things?
Yeah.
Like no one does that. We were talking about this in the morning meeting for TYT. It's like no Jew is wearing a Star of David to communicate to you that you shouldn't do the Holocaust again. Like that's what's so weird about it. It's like it's not like a red ribbon for AIDS awareness, and you're wearing a red ribbon like the people who suffered with it and try to get your awareness. So today with pink, people are wearing it to raise awareness for that specific thing. Like what's hilariously ironic, because it is funny to me. Like, it's not hateful, I'm not mad. I think it's so funny and stupid. Thank God. Is that like the ones dying in this Holocaust equation that you're setting up for us is your side, is the anti-maskers, is the anti-vaxxers. Those are the ones dying. So your own internal logic doesn't even make sense.
No, not at all. The only internal logic I think that could be applied to this is a limited ability, albeit too late, to read something like The Room. That's from Mayor Dave Bronson, who you saw in that video, defending this on Wednesday night. By Thursday night at a follow-up meeting, he'd apparently been told, oh wait, people have already gotten in trouble. To give you an idea of, like, this is the thing Marjorie Greene apologized for, was that this comparison. Marjorie Greene, who doesn't apologize for anything, even she finally was like, okay, I guess that was pretty bad. So Mayor Bronson on Wednesday defends it. On Thursday, he says, I understand the anger about this proposed mask mandate, and I agree with that anger. But I asked our citizens to be sensitive and understanding about the impact that the wearing of the yellow Star of David has on many members of our Jewish community. I encourage you to find some other symbols to show your opposition to this ordinance. He's like pretending he was advising them not to do it the day before, when he's like, no, it's super respectful. In fact, it's kind of messed up of you to not be wearing a yellow star.
So
that's
weird.
what I got out of it.
So weird.
Any final thoughts?
I just love it. I love it so much. It's
wear a
people
mask.
insert, like, here's the last thought is, you know what? He's right. We are rounding up all the anti-vaxxers in these places called hospitals.
Exactly.
That's where they're going. Some of them do die there, but as opposed to what the Nazis did, our side tries to cure them still, despite not their inborn issue, or like no one's calipering your brain, your head to find out if, or your nose size to see if you're a chosen race here. These are all your decisions, dude.
100%. Okay, Brett, well, we've had a lot of fun, but we do have one chore that we do each week, and that is taking out garbage. How are we doing behind the scenes? We're ready to go? Okay, well, it's the end of the week, and so it's time to take out the trash. Oh, Brett, it's been a really garbagey week. Who's your garbage person of the week?
You know, my garbage person, it's just symbolic of a conversation. It's partially Joe Rogan, but it's really just like the whole damn stupid discussion. So here is Joe Rogan and a dude talking about how, according to Joe's theory, to Joe Rogan's theory, Joe Biden did not actually get a booster shot. And then the discussion afterwards, take a listen.
President Biden wearing a mask yesterday, getting a booster. So,
do you think he got a booster? Do you think that was a real booster?
You mentioned that before we started talking, and I hadn't thought about it before. But you know what? When I watched it on TV, when I watched him getting his shot and his mask on, all I could think of was this is performance art. So the next step of performance art would be like not giving him the booster, but just giving him a shot. Right?
I think if they were gonna give him a booster shot, the last thing they would do is give it to him live on television. What if he dies?
Right.
What if he blacks out? What if he gets it and faints? Because people have had very bad reactions, in the moment for whatever reason.
Right. No, I think they still tell you, they give you the shot and then they'll say, stick around for 10 or 15 minutes. They want to make sure you don't, fall down.
Yeah.
And so, no, I agree, because every other step of the way with any president, they're so careful.
Yes.
Right? So careful about the messaging, the optics, the security issues related to it. It would be not unheard of.
Unless
Let's put it that
Kamala
way.
Harris talked him into it.
Ooh.
She's like, go ahead, take it. Take a double. Give him a double.
I think that's a fine joke at the end. I think that's just a joke. I think it's hilarious, but the premise of the joke is still like, these things are killing people. I just hate the whole conversation. And more specifically, I think that guy's like a CIA dude. But as someone who has been producing shows, on shows, panel shows, new guests, auditioning people, that look around that guy does is a please, please, please like me. I'll say whatever you want look around. I didn't even think about that until you asked me. But I'm definitely going to agree with you because I'm on the Joe Rogan Experience. It's only other comedians that come on there and go, "You are the dumbest guy I've ever talked to." And to the credit of Joe Rogan, he's like, maybe I'm stupid. But also like the premise and what's dumb to me about the conversation is for Joe Rogan is trying to have it all kinds of ways. Like this, either he is like totally actually skeptical about this vaccine and doesn't trust the government and the vaccine itself. But like, why are you trusting ivermectin? It always boils down to this selective nonsense that's not motivated by what the right answer is, but by what the contrarian position of cool guys whose only determining characteristic is that they have to know better than someone.
Yeah,
like I have to know better. Yeah, there's this cool write-up. People probably already saw this. It might be Pop Science or whatever, but it's something interesting, and we're talking about it. And it is actually documented, like psychological evaluation. And it also chronicles people in cults where like it was in Vox. It was a write-up today. It was like people who are in cults that are about the end of the world on Tuesday. When Tuesday comes and goes, and the end of the world disproves that the cult's central premise was right. They never say, you know what, you're right. They always pivot to something. And that pivot could be, we were right, but in a different way, or our faith actually changed everything. So the other side, the aliens who were gonna abduct us had to reevaluate, or the Lord got our position, and it's never provable. And the other thing I'll point out is like when it comes to ivermectin, when it comes to this new pill that they've got from Merck that says 50% of people don't get the disease. Like I know I don't know better, and I know I'll ask the right questions along the way. So like that seems to be their central premise, but it's also in my central premise. The difference is like I genuinely believe in doing all those like thought experiments and bits of evaluation and asking doctors and stuff, and they don't. For them, it's just all hot air.
Yeah.
And if the word comes down that ivermectin does help stop COVID, I'd be like, great, dude. We'll use it. But in the meantime,
you should still not get COVID, ideally.
And there's why would you not trust the vaccine, but you will trust something like ivermectin to cure these diseases? And then Joe Rogan's on there talking about how he took a Z-Pack to fight a virus. Z-Packs stop bacterial infections, okay? That is different from a virus. And then he also said, you know what's weird, man, and I'm just asking questions, but you know what's weird is sometimes vaccines allow a more deadly version of the virus to survive so it's harder to fight it later. And it's like, you just took a Z-Pack, dude. A Z-Pack, the whole argument against Z-Packs is that they create super bacteria. So you're not consistent. You just think you're so damn smart, you don't have to ask yourself where you're inconsistent.
Yeah, or
and you're not that smart.
Or he knows that his audience, that's one of the things his audience will accept as a solution, because Trump has been saying from the beginning, Z-Pack's a solution.
I find that hard to believe.
Give their audience what their audience wants to hear.
I find that hard. That's in a comedian's DNA, just to read the room. But like, I think he actually believes a lot of this stuff. He's not an influencer, in my opinion. He's an indicator.
Perhaps, but he is delivering what a right-wing audience wants to hear, coincidentally.
And that's why I think the whole discussion is my garbage person.
There you go. Okay, well, my garbage person of the week is not technically Kyrsten Sinema, even though I really want it to be, but I've talked so much about her this week. It is attached to her though. It's kind of an article or an outlet, almost a tweet. Let me show you this tweet from Axios. Kyrsten Sinema's allies have some free advice for anyone trying to bully the wine-drinking triathlete into supporting Biden's $3.5 trillion budget bill. She doesn't play by Washington's rules, and she's prepared to walk away. Which is like a log line for a middling drama, but that's what they decided to go with on Axios. And Axios, or at the very least Hans Nichols, this writer, has really been on a tear doing a bunch of free PR for Kyrsten Sinema with no substantive critical analysis of what she's doing or why she's doing it. This is the same outlet, the same author who recently wrote The Scoop, Sinema's Secret Spreadsheets, which pretended that she's just interested in dollars and cents and has very specific needs that need to be met, even though she can't articulate any of them. Now, I want to go into a couple of the specifics from this article to let you know why I was so frustrated by it. So here's a few quotes. You can read the whole thing, it's on Axios. Why it matters. For all her flash, Sinema, unlike fellow holdout Senator Joe Manchin, rarely telegraphs her precise intentions, leaving political adversaries guessing about her ultimate goals. She's so mysterious. It's not that she's delivering for corporate donors. In fact, going to fundraisers during this week's negotiations, she's just an enigma. She's just a mystery, like the Da Vinci Code or its television adaptation. Between the lines, progressives could be forgiven for presuming that Sinema, 45, the first openly bisexual member of Congress, who's easy to spot in her trademark sleeveless dresses, wry wigs, and acrylic glasses, would share their woke politics. So this author is one of those, she dresses weird, so she's cool people, but also would share their woke politics. I have a question. What the hell is woke about the reconciliation infrastructure bill? What is weirdly woke about it? That it'll give people insurance, that it'll like build bridges? Elder care, is that the woke part of it? Or is it a more meta thing? Is it that, hey, the Democrats are finally gonna deliver? They made a promise during an election, they're finally gonna actually do something. Rather than Republicans determining the entire national agenda, finally the Democrats will weigh in. Is that the woke part? I don't know. It goes on and on about her being unconventional and a force to be reckoned with because she wakes up early to train for triathlons. That's why she's a force to be reckoned with. She's not a force to be reckoned with because she has the Senate seat. There's no mechanism for recalling her, and she feels no obligation to her constituents and might well not even be planning to run for re-election, so she can just deliver for her donors and eventually get a lobbying job. That's not why she's a force to be reckoned with. It's because she's an enigma. That's what it is. And so you can read the article. It is so uncritical. If I were Kyrsten Sinema, I would ask them to dial it back a bit because it's so ridiculous. But it's just the latest in a thing that Axios is doing, wanting to make her out to be some sort of independent or maverick rather than just another Democrat delivering for their donors. Quick thoughts about this, Brett? We only got a minute.
If we can go back to that first graphic, here's how I know this is not journalism. Is the last line in that first graphic is she's prepared to walk away, and then they show her biking. Like that just doesn't. That's not walking.
She's prepared to ride away, man. If you're gonna conjure a metaphor, stick with it.
Yep.
But anyway, that's my garbage person of the week. What did you all think? Well, I sort of suspected I knew. 31,000 of you voted on our community tab. And coming in at number 5 with 5% of the vote is Nancy Pelosi for breaking her promises on the spending bill. Really, just 5th for her? Okay. Tied for 4th and 3rd at 6% each. You have Jeff Bezos for harming employees in pursuit of his space race. We talked about in the show yesterday. And Marjorie Greene for screaming at people on the Capitol steps. Not a lot of love for Marjorie Greene this week. Number 2 is Mitch McConnell with 18% of the vote for bringing the government to the brink of shutdown. But Kyrsten Sinema has blown away the field at 65% of the vote for imploding the Democrats' entire agenda and just being the worst while doing it. Thank you to everybody who voted, much appreciated. And thank you, Brett, for being here as always for our Friday edition of the Damage Report.
Awesome, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Everyone stay tuned for Game Busters later on tonight. Maybe I'll be there, we don't know, we'll see.
Galaxy Brain is happening also this evening between Indisputable and Main Show.
Basically, go to twitch.tv/TYT and just leave it there. There you go, thank you, Brett. And I'll be doing the power panel later on, so I'll see you then. But until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.